just a simple realisation that my mind and my body are not me, okay? Now I know that brings in this bigger question, okay, then who are we? Are we the soul, the spirit, the conscious self? But I wasn't asking the bigger question. What my realisation was, I just wasn't this physical thing. Because when I'm consciously saying, I don't want to experience this pain, I don't want to experience these substances, then all of a sudden, in the back of my head was, but we enjoy it. Our life won't be the same without it. But we won't fit in anymore. But. And when you get enough buts, you actually change your story and then you go and pick up. So, but once I realised that there was this separation, then I started to make a change. And that change came in the form of self-talk. So I basically started to talk to myself, okay? But not like I'm crazy just talking to myself, but I actually opened up a dialogue with my mind. And that dialogue actually got some feedback. And it wasn't like a voice that, I want to stop drugs. No, you can't. But it came as an emotional experience, an emotional change that happened inside of me. And that was the very first moment that I realised that I had a communication with my mind and body. Now, through those 20 plus years of taking drink and drugs, it wasn't, a short period. It engulfed my whole childhood into adulthood. And to have this realisation that a lot of my wants and needs weren't actually coming from me was a little bit of a shock in the beginning, because everything I ever done my whole life, I thought it was what I wanted. But through 20 years of abusing drink and drugs, you suffer a lot of anxiety, you suffer a lot of stress. In fact, mental health, I had suffered very, very badly because I was paranoid. I had forms of schizophrenia, psychosis. But I didn't even know that, because when you go and speak to someone that's got paranoia or psychosis or who's schizophrenic and you say, do you know that you're suffering psychosis? And they look at you as if nothing wrong with me, because this is the problem. When something's happening to us, we don't recognise it. But everybody around us can see it, very, very clearly. The first time I started to smoke marijuana, it was good. We got stoned. It was, brilliant. We got, the hunger, the munchies, yeah. We laughed, we joked. It was really, really good. But after a period, when the paranoia got, so much, and the psychosis, I remember once walking down the street and I had this limp, okay? And I don't know where the limp came from, but I used to think that people were talking about my limp. And the more I thought that people were talking about my limp, the worse the limp got. And then, but then one day it got so bad, and the psychosis, even though I didn't realise I was suffering psychosis, I said, I'm just going to stop, smoking marijuana. Now, I promise you I'm not an anti-marijuana person. If people want to smoke marijuana, it's absolutely fine, yeah? Medical use of it, we've been talking about it through food and that. Let's just give it to whoever wants it. If someone's in pain, brilliant, yeah? If somebody wants to use it recreational, brilliant, yeah? But my experience at the end was I was suffering from it. But when I stopped, and it took a couple of weeks, but the limp disappeared, yeah? All of a sudden, my paranoia with the people that I was around stopped. So that was, I suppose, the first indication of what substances were doing for me. Now, of course, substances react differently with people, but for me, that was my experience. But I still went on for years after that, using all of these other drugs. But what I was gaining, and the knowledge that I gained over the 20 years, is our emotions and our feelings are not us. Yes, they are a guide. Every single one of you is being guided. You're being guided by your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions. But your thoughts, feelings, and emotions are created by the mind. Yeah, because the mind doesn't speak to you as a voice. It doesn't say to me, Chris, go and get me some Stellas, or Chris, go and go and do the activity or something. But on an emotional level, the mind will show me, okay? So every single one of you has experienced hunger of food, yeah? Before lunch, we was all like, got that emotional feeling, but that is the indication that the body is saying, it's lunchtime and we need to eat. So when you get the emotional, pull, we don't question it, we just go and eat, unless you're on a diet. But then if you're on a diet, then you start to suffer pain, because now we're restricting ourselves. And none of us really want to experience pain. So what we do is we answer to what our emotions and feelings are saying. And this is the realisation that came to me, that if I consciously don't want to do something, but my mind and body do, then there must be a separation. And that separation is just simply this, that you are the conscious self. However you want to see yourself, you are the conscious self, the spirit, the soul. Okay, there's so many different takes on it. You know, I'm not exactly a religious person. You know, I absolutely believe there is something, but you can take it from so many different angles. I mean, if you go to the religious thing, you know, okay, so we're all off to heaven. That's brilliant, yeah? So that just means I am the soul, the spirit. You know, if we do law of attraction or The Secret, then I'm just energy. We all know that we're energy, and you cannot create or destroy energy, so we're just moving, you know, from form into form, out of form. That is our life's purpose. Or if you believe in a computer simulation, you know, Elon Musk, if you just see him smoking a joint the other day. But he believes in this simulation model that sometime in the future, you know, we've created virtual reality games that are indistinguishable from this reality now. And you know, and think about it, 40 years ago, it's true, isn't it? We had the first computer games, 2 lines and a dot, if you are old enough to remember that. But it was, you know, 2 dots going beep. That was the first computer games. But 40 years on, we've already got virtual reality. We've got FIFA 19. You know, the players look like the players. But you put the virtual reality on and you can become the player. Okay? I know we're still at the very beginning, but you fast forward 500 years, who's to say that we haven't created it? Now, I don't actually, you know, go for any one of these forms. I'm very open-minded to all possibilities, because technically I don't know. But what I do know is that all of these things lead back to the same thing, that there's something else going on, you know. And that brings us back to purpose, doesn't it? What is our purpose? Why are we here? You know, what is our job? You know, and as far as I know, it's just to experience. We're just here to experience life. You know, experience drinking drugs, experience relationships, experience holidays, you know, jobs, whatever it is that we're here for. But ultimately, it's happiness, isn't it? We're just ultimately here to experience as much happiness as we can. But you can't experience happiness every day. You know, I just took a little bit of Reiki out there. It's amazing. I felt really cool. Okay? And that's happiness, isn't it? But we can't have Reiki every single day. We can't have positive minds. You know, if we're all walking around smiling, going, yeah, everything's wonderful, well, life isn't like that, is it? Life isn't all wonderful. So what we have to learn is how to manage ourselves. How do you manage your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions? What happens when someone upsets you and you get that, you know, that really bad feeling? Because what happens when we get anger or frustration, then we attract it, don't we? We're like a magnet. You know, if you have bad feelings, then everywhere you go, we're attracting more bad things. So how do you change that? So you have to learn about the mind. You know, ultimately, you know, we have all of these, you know, we have meditation, yoga, you know, acupuncture. You know, we have all of these amazing therapies that make us feel good. But if we're trying to fix something, okay, just feeling good may not fix it. See, our problem, or our problems, they actually reside in the mind. You know, the mind is such a powerful force that I think we don't look at it enough. You know, when you go to a doctor, I've got these problems, it's fine. You can go this way for CBT, this way for counselling, okay? But where's the fix? You know, where's the fix when it actually comes to, you know, trauma? I've got trauma, I've got inner emotions. It's like when I got hypnotised, I thought, yeah, you know, when I got hypnotised, you know, the next day I went for a cigarette, and the first thing that happened, you know, when I went for the cigarette, my mind said, do you really want that? And, you know, that was a voice, you know, it was definitely a thought that came. And I went, wow, that's amazing, this hypnosis is brilliant. But emotionally, yeah, I still wanted the cigarette. So even though I got the thought, I still took the cigarette. Because unless someone can make me feel good, then I'm not going to do it. Because if I have to have a life with a void, with something missing, where I'm in some sort of pain, then I'm not going to do it. And I'm a very strong-willed person. As much as, I messed around and I knew what I wanted, but someone had to show me. If you can't show me, a good life this side, then I'm always going to stay on this side. And I suppose that's how I stayed with substances for so long. But I also stayed with the mental health, the anxiety, the stress, the fear, the pain, okay? So what we now do, or what I teach, is a form of self-talk. I teach people how to talk to themselves. And it isn't difficult. Sometimes when I look, someone's in front of me, they're a heroin addict or a crack addict or a chronic alcoholic or something, yeah? I look at them and the solution is so simple. Okay, someone might need a detox, they might need pharmaceutical drugs, they need caring at the beginning, but then what they need is a reprogramming. See, every time you've ever hit pleasure in your life, okay, anything that's ever made you feel good, okay, your mind ticked a box. Yeah? If you think about your mind as a prehistoric mind, okay? Think about when we were cavemen, we were living in woods or caves or, rummaging around the forest, okay? We didn't have language, we didn't have, communities like this. It was survival, just like an animal, okay? But what kept that animal alive was its mind, and the mind was preset. Seek out pleasure, avoid pain. Very, very simple. Pleasure, find food, find shelter, find warmth, okay, find a mate, avoid pain, just don't get eaten by another wild animal. It's true though, isn't it? But that's how animals are preset, but aren't we animal-like? Because we must have been, because we weren't born into I know we were born into a society, but not back then, okay? But that preset mind, that caveman mind, or however far you wish to go back, is the same mind that you have now. It's a preset mechanism to seek out pleasure, avoid pain. And what that means is that every time you hit a pleasure point, that you get dopamine. We talked about dopamine earlier. See, what happens when you get dopamine is a chemical that makes you feel good. And if you have a drug or an activity, if you get caressed, if you have sex, if you eat a certain food, okay, you release dopamine. When the mind releases dopamine, its job is to remember. It has to remember that's where we get pleasure, so it will encourage you to go back. Think about a caveman, he's walking through the forest or, and he sees a bush and it's got berries on and he eats the berry and it's all sour and disgusting, he spits it out. And then he carries on his journey through the forest and there's another bush and it's more berries and he takes the berry and it's all sweet and it tastes amazing. What happens in the mind? The mind releases dopamine. The mind says, wow, this is nutrition, this is food. We must encourage you to go back there. But even if that caveman stayed there and, got greedy and ate all these berries and, ended up being sick and went back to his cave and had stomachache for a couple of days, what do you think happens when he wakes up and he feels better? The mind remembers the pleasure and says, let's go back to the bush. Yeah, because it's a preset mind. And that is what is happening to us every single day. And we wonder why we're suffering anxiety and stress. Because the mind's trying to, guide us. It's trying to tell us where to go. But like all pleasures in life, they don't stay pleasurable, do they? Smoking cigarettes at the beginning was cool. But when you get up to 40 cigarettes, which I did every single day, it's not so cool anymore because you've got lethargy, you're coughing, you're choking, you smell, the money, the stigma. Yeah, so it's not so fun anymore. So then you decide, do you know what? That's my last cigarette. I'm not going to smoke anymore. But then what happens? The mind kicks in. The mind says, I'm really sorry, but we now need that. And that we get pleasure from it, so emotionally, physically, we're going to encourage you to do it. Now, when I tried to stop smoking, I could, I don't know how many smokers in here, but I could probably do about an hour without a cigarette. But after an hour, emotionally, I was in turmoil. You get a little bit of a rage, you get like, and so what's happening is my mental, physical body and my mind are now saying, we are unhappy that you're not doing what you're supposed to. And this is where a lot of anxiety and stress comes from. And I talk about drugs, but think about food. We talked about refined sugar. Refined sugar is one of the most addictive substances that we put inside our body. You know, science has done it. They've done the test. They scan these people's brains. There's got one person taking cocaine and the other taking, you know, a bit of chocolate, refined sugar. Yeah? The person taking the refined sugar, their brain lights up 8 times faster than the cocaine. 8 times faster. Yeah, we're dealing with highly addictive substances. But the food companies don't care, the food industry, because this is what happened all those years ago. They said, you know, demonise fat. You know, we need fat. But what they done, they said, no, remove all the fat, put in all the sugar. You know, but what they realised is when they put the sugar in, everyone became addicted to it. Their sales went from here to here. Yeah? Because what refined sugar is we extract from the natural sources, you know, and then we add chemicals and we process it and we crystallise it. Now we've got a really good, highly addictive product. But what they do with the product, it doesn't stop there. They put it back into the food chain. They mix it with some fat and there's all chemical reactions. And now all of a sudden we've got the crack cocaine of the food industry in chocolate and crisps and biscuits and cakes and puddings and ice creams and sweets. You know, I think something like 80% of what we consume now has got refined sugar in. Why does it have refined sugar in? Because when you consume it, your brain lights up like a Christmas tree. When your brain lights up on a Christmas tree, the mind ticks a box to that product. And then you are encouraged to buy the product again. So we're just consumers, aren't we? Consumers to the food industry, consumers to the drinks industry, the pharmaceutical industry, you name it. You know, we're just being overloaded with substances, creating wants and needs inside of us to encourage you to buy, okay? But what I've understood and what I've learned and what I teach now is that there is a way that you can go back into the mind and you can reprogram it. I literally teach people that you can just sit in your mind, and just like you would with a laptop or, you know, a keyboard, and you can start to reprogram your mind to the things that you actually want, and you can delete the things what are creating wants and needs inside of you. So even if someone comes to me, you know, and I've got this food addiction, or I smoke, I drink, I take recreational drugs, but this one here is the problem. You know, you can actually remove one addiction and leave the rest. Because at the end of the day, life's a little bit too short for us all to be like, you know, we're all vegan, sugar-free, smoke-free, drug-free. You know, it might just be too much for people to cope. But I do it. I do take everyone off everything. But it's up to that person. Because I'm not a critic. I'm not judgmental. I took crack cocaine and heroin. I smoked and I'd done all of these things. I could never be critical or judgmental of someone. See, I only ever help the people that want to be helped. If you don't recognise something to be a problem, well, it isn't a problem. If you're getting all pleasure and no pain, why would you want to stop? You know, I remember saying to my mum and dad, you know, perhaps you should drink less caffeine, cut out the tea, go to herbal and decaf. You know, and they looked at me as if they wanted to kill me. That's my parents, you know. They're like, caffeine, just stay there, do you know? And we're just talking about caffeine, you know. So we're a nation, we're so addicted to stuff, but where does it all lead? It leads back to this thing that we call anxiety and stress, yeah? And anxiety and stress, like I said, is part of our survival mechanism, but it's causing a lot of pain in our lives. And if you want to reduce some of it, then maybe think about reducing some of these substances, or, you know, pharmaceutical drugs, or, you know, talking about pharmaceutical drugs. I talk a lot about antidepressants. We touched, you know, a conversation on that earlier. Now, when I do retreats where we take people away and we spend 3 days with them and teach them the model. But I show this video about anxiety and stress. You may have seen it on Facebook, but it's an experiment, science experiment. They get this big, you know, box or plastic container, and within the plastic container is a very small plastic container. And you know, I'm not into animal experiments and stuff, but I saw it on Facebook, and because it was so relevant, I actually show it when I'm actually teaching people. And basically what they've done is they get a rat and they put this rat into this tight container, and the rat's sitting there, and you can see it's under tension because it's in an enclosed space. And they put the hatch down, so the rat is stuck. Then they get another rat, and they put the rat into the container, and immediately, just like us, because we can feel human pain, someone's suffering, they put the rat in, and immediately the rat feels the other person's pain. And so it's running around this container, and it's trying to get this other rat out. Can we have some lights? Sorry. I'm getting scared up here. You've blown a fuse. So I can talk in the dark, I'll talk anywhere, it doesn't matter to me, it's fine. I'll take a sip of water while we're out.
Sorry, guys.
Alright, so listen, it's fine. This is I've got one light, it's enough.
Yeah, I can't get any lights on.
So,
What's going on?
no one's been electrocuted, have they? So anyway, so look, I'm going to go back to this container. So you know, as I say, it's an experiment. So they've got this big container and this little container. They put the rat in. They shut the hatch. The rat's under tension. They get this other rat and they put the rat into this bigger container. But immediately the rat feels the other rat's pain. Yeah, because we've all got that sense of feeling, emotional attachment. And so the rat runs around and it's trying to get this other rat out. It's running over this thing, it's trying everything it can, and then it finds the hatch and the rat pushes open the hatch and it releases the other rat, yeah? So that means animals feel, yeah? This is why, you know, we should think about going vegan or vegetarian or stuff like that, because we do kill all these animals and they've got feelings, you know, But anyway, back to this experiment. So that was the experiment. And so then what they do is they do the experiment again and they put the rat into this container and you can see the rat's under tension. But this time the rat that they put in, they give it an antidepressant. And then they put the rat into this container and then this rat absolutely ignores this other rat. Yeah? Because what that drug is doing is it's desensitizing you to your human nature, to feeling. It basically engulfs you in this little bubble and it says that everything is all right. So everyone that takes antidepressants now is walking around going, yeah, everything's good, whilst people around them are suffering. But they can no longer feel the pain. Okay, and you know, this experiment, it just showed that, okay, but that, you know, when I saw in the paper the other day, 7 million of us in this country are taking antidepressants, 7 million, yeah, how many of us is there, 65 million in this country? It's a massive percentage, okay, but we've got 7 million people not feeling each other's pain or love or anything because they believe everything's happening. Everything's okay, and it isn't okay. Life isn't okay. You know, even though I don't do drink or drugs, or you know, I try to live the best way I can, life still throws crap at me. You know, every single day I've got to deal with stuff. Stuff can cause anxiety. I suffer anxiety and stress, like same as everybody else. Yeah, but it's how do you deal with that? How do you deal with holding your emotions and feelings in your hand and saying, what do I do with them? Because all of the time we take drink or drugs, we don't get that choice. For 20 years, I wasn't able to self-manage myself because I used alcohol, I used substances, I used cocaine, I used crack, I used all of these bad things which then controlled me. But the more I released myself from these substances, so I gained back control of my emotions and feelings. See, at 7 years old, I was gifted with everything. Everything that I was ever going to need. Same as every single one of you. See, if it was God or whoever set this thing up, they gifted you with every emotion and every feeling that you was ever going to need your whole life, okay? But when society said to me, I'm really sorry, son, but you know, I know you're having a good time here, but we need you to, you know, try this substance. You know, the first substance I ever probably took was, I don't know, it would have been refined sugars, yeah? Because mum and dad, there's some sweets, that's your treat. You know, and already it created inside of me was a want and need. You know, then my mum said, yeah, do you want to try me cup of tea, son, cup of tea? And I went, oh, it's horrible, mum. And she went, no, there's 2 spoonfuls of sugar, try it again. Oh, yeah, that's all right, tastes nice now. But, already what have I done? I've put caffeine, addictive substance, refined sugar, addictive substance. But it's not my mum's fault, it's coming from love, isn't it? She loves me, she wants me to be happy, just like she's happy when she drinks her cup of tea. And then, my older brother says, do you want to try this? All of a sudden, we're smoking cigarettes, Christmas, I remember my mum and dad saying, there's a drink for you. And I was like, well, what is it? Do you remember Snowballs? It's a really sweet alcoholic drink, though. And I said, is it alcohol? Is it alcohol? Yes, son, but only at Christmas. And I was like, oh, thanks, Dad. And we're going to get drunk, to my brother. We never got drunk. It was too sweet and just too much, right? But it had already begun. See, once we put the substances in, then wants and needs are created. Just like the caveman taking the berry, the caveman realising, wow, this is cool, yeah? But the same thing is happening now in society with the things we do. So, I'm not here to say, let's end all substances, let's go vegan, let's just do this, It isn't that. It's about choices, isn't it? Every step is about a choice. What is going to be good for me? See, a lot of our time we're spent people pleasing. We're trying to do everything for everyone else. We give it, we might be half full, but we still give everything that we've got. Yeah, and people take, don't they? If you're giving, yeah, but we end up sick, don't we? And depressed and, locked indoors. And, who comes knocking when you're sick? Not many people. Yeah, and we've got true friends, every single one of us, okay? But when I was out doing drinking, I had hundreds of friends. But when I was suffering depression and anxiety, there was no one knocking on my door. Oh, he's sick, don't bother ringing him. That's how it was, yeah? So your job in life is to start looking after you, yeah? Your job is to stop focusing out here, trying to please the world, trying to fit in, trying to do what we were told we were supposed to do, and is start to focus in here and start to decide, are you happy with what you're experiencing? Are you happy with the thoughts that you're having? Because if you're not happy, then you can change this, yeah? And you can change this yourself. You don't need a psychologist or a doctor. You don't need, a counsellor. You don't need pharmaceutical drugs. There's a very, very simple technique, and it's called that you can talk to yourself. It's called self-talk. 3 ways that you can communicate with your mind. The first one is like this, a verbal, but it's not like, oh, I'm complaining. It's internal. It's, where's my keys? What did I do in my bag? And the mind's reminding you. It's reminding you. It's called internal self-talk. See, and every single one of you is self-talking. You talk to yourself every single day. But we've never actually realised that we're talking to the mind. We just thought we're talking to ourselves. But guess what? You've been asking your mind questions all your life, and your mind's been delivering to you answers. Yeah, and we've been following them. But unfortunately, some of the answers that you're being given are leading us to the wrong place. Yeah? When your mind's saying, pick up that donut, have that fag, go and put a bet on that horse, go and smoke that joint, go and do this, go and do that. Yet, if it's all good, brilliant, but if it's leading you to depression or anxiety and stress, then we have to question it. But you don't question it out here. See, substances, people, society isn't the problem. See, this is where I made the mistake. 20 years, I thought my problems were out there. But they was always sitting behind me, but I could never recognise it. Because my eyes are out here. I'm always looking out here. How on earth can you look in here? And do you know the hardest thing in the world is to actually help yourself? It's really good. I could help you all day. I can help you. Yeah, but as soon as you go to help yourself, what happens in the mind? The mind says, no, don't look in here. You go back out there. Yeah, because the mind is the higher intelligence, isn't it? If you think we've got trillions of cells being orchestrated around the body, your heart rate, your body temperature, it's all being orchestrated by your mind. We have something like 50 to 70,000 thoughts every single day. You're not creating any of them. They're all being created for you by your mind as your guide. I used to think this was me breathing. But it isn't. If I wanted to stop breathing, I couldn't. Look. Give it a couple of minutes, what will happen, or my cheeks will just engulf, and then my mind and body would force me to breathe. I'm not even in control of my breathing. And I shouldn't be anyway, because when I'm asleep, I'd probably just die, wouldn't I? So it's a good job that my mind's in control. So the mind is doing a really, really excellent job, but the mind is trying to work in a modern day society when it wasn't meant to work here. It was meant to work when we were first human, as a survival mechanism. Find some food, find a shelter, find some warmth, seek out pleasure, avoid pain, just don't get eaten by wild animals. But every time we walk out our front door, there are no more wild animals. We've it's almost extinct, that part, isn't it? Because we've either killed them or we've locked them in zoos, and we can look at them through screens. Brilliant. But we're not in danger anymore. But where we are in danger is this, society. Society is causing us a lot of pain. Pain of a job, pain of a relationship, pain of a mortgage, lots and lots of pain, lots of anxiety and stress going on. So we need to start to recognise this. But the unfortunate part about the mind, and this is the flaw, okay? You can see it as a flaw. I do see it as a flaw now. We live in a modern day society. The problem with the mind is this. It has no common sense. It doesn't have any... If it had common sense, it would have said, Chris, stop taking that crack and heroin and sort your life out. But my mind said to me, no, let's just keep going. Let's just keep going. I work a lot with homeless people. We go onto the streets. I take my... booklets, and we sit with homeless people and I read to them, because a lot of them can't read, and I teach them this very simple model about their mind. But think about a heroin addict. Once I came across a homeless person, and he said to me, he said this story. He said, at some X amount of years ago, I can try not remember exactly, he said, I was 24th to the throne of this country. And I went, good one, mate, because, you think that they're just spinning you a story. And anyway, I kept seeing this guy, and a friend of mine we were sitting with him and was talking to him, she Googled him, she Googled, what's your name? And she Googled him, and it actually came up that he was the son of an aristocratic family, and at some point he was 24th to the throne of this crown. Now, this guy was homeless, heroin addict, living rough on the street. Now, common sense says... his mind would say, listen, sort your life out, go and get a bit of shelter, go and get yourself a job, show your parents that you're doing well, they'll take you back in, and then you'll get back into the family, and then you'll get your wealth and everything back. Common sense says that's what his mind should have been telling him. But what's his mind telling him when he's sitting on a cold, wet pavement? The mind's saying, no, go and get me some more heroin. And that proves that your mind has no common sense, okay? Just like a child, isn't it? We got, children here today. You'd never let a 3 or 4 year old play out in the street whilst you sat in here and listened to me. Why? Because the child has no common sense. It's likely to run out in the road and get knocked down. No normal person would allow that. But this is the thing with the mind. It's very much like a child. It's very powerful, it's very strong, okay? But it's missing that one link that has no common sense. But the good thing is that you, the adult, you, the human, you, the person, you have common sense. And because of that reason, as much as this mind is 1,000 times more intelligent, and 1,000 times, I did not say that word powerful, but this word is because you have common sense, you will always be more powerful than the mind. Because you are the decision maker. You are actually deciding through emotions and feelings whether or not you're going to do something. But because no one ever showed you the separation, because everyone just believes that with this whole thing, no one's ever worked it out. I only came across it by accident because I was in search of an answer. And maybe sometimes when you search so hard for an answer, the universe gives you that answer. But that answer can sometimes be a burden, because... my story, ended with drinking drugs probably 11 years ago. But 4.5 years ago, I actually lost my twin brother to a drug overdose. And even though I'd freed myself from over 20 years of drinking drugs, I had to witness my brother take his last breath because he decided on a night out to take too many ecstasy tablets. It reacted in his body, it shut his organs down and it killed him. And what that done for me, it absolutely destroyed me. And I'd spent 6 years rebuilding my life. If you think 20 plus years of doing drink and drug, when I freed myself, I thought, right, now I wanna save some money. Now I wanna, buy a house. Now I wanna get married. Now I wanna start a family. Now I wanna start a business. Now I wanna employ. And that's exactly what I'd done. I rebuilt my life. I really went for it, yeah? But then 6 years on, this thing happened to my brother, and it absolutely just destroyed me. I went down for so long. You talk about depression, to have to hold your brother when he, I still get choked now, but to have to hold your brother when he takes his last breath, there wasn't any self-talk or anything that was ever going to fix that. 6 months I probably went down, suicidal thoughts, bad thoughts, bad feelings. I couldn't go into crowded spaces. I couldn't do anything, yeah? But what did save me was my wife, my child, that purpose, and every single one of us needs a purpose. It may not have been given to us, but we need a purpose, otherwise what's the point? And then through that experience and coming through that, I realised that my purpose had changed. And I realised that with all of the knowledge and experience that I had gained, I needed to share it. And that's what I'd done. I wrote a book. This was all going to fly off. I wrote a book. I can do it. I wrote a book which shared my story and shared my brother's story. But within this book, I gave the solution to the addiction problem. I talk about addiction, but it's a model. It isn't, even though I sit in the arena of addiction, well, you can understand why, because I don't want anyone else to lose a loved one through substance abuse or something like that. So I teach addiction, but what I'm actually teaching is this really simple model here that says that you are a separate entity to your mind and body. And if you don't like what you're experiencing, then there's a way that you can change it. And it's a very, very simple technique called self-talk. Now, when I actually published this book, I realised that this costs money. And because of that reason, I actually took the crutch of this book out. I took the crutch of the book out and I created this. It's called my 7-Day Beat Addiction Plan. Now, this book is the solution to the problem. This book explains this really simple model and a simple technique called self-talk. This is free to download on my website. Tens of thousands of people have downloaded this all around the world. I get letters, emails every single day. Even this morning, people messaging me saying, "Thank you so much. I can't believe that you've just gifted us this." Yeah. So if you get a chance, come and take a leaflet. It will give you my email address and that. Please, if you just do one thing this weekend, download something and just take a little bit of knowledge. A little bit of knowledge. Whether you're going to change or you're not going to change, it doesn't matter, does it? Because this little bit of knowledge, you may be able to help your friend, your neighbour, that colleague at work. You just don't know. If somebody had given me this 20 years ago, perhaps my life hadn't or wouldn't have turned out the way it did. Yeah? And that's like what I said to you is this. Yes, it's a blessing, but it's also a burden. For every person that I help, there's always someone else that needs to be helped. So for me, it's good and bad, but my purpose now is to share this message around the world as far and wide as I can. I've been to America, I've spoke at NIH, I've been to the NHS, I've volunteered my services, but there's real problems in the system. They only believe in a disease model. A disease means there's a cure, it can be given a pharmaceutical. Holistic stuff still isn't being taken up, but I will keep campaigning through Westminster. I've been to the European Parliament. My journey is going to go on, but just my gift to you is just this information, and hopefully that will help you as you go on your journey as well. So thank you very much. We have got time for questions. So if you have any questions, just far away, and I'll try to explain some things a little bit deeper for you. So has anyone got any questions?
Yeah, what are the techniques? Because the techniques which are in your book, would you like to share some of them?
So I think I didn't finish, did I? Because I was explaining there's 3 forms of self-talk. So 3 communications with the mind. The first one is a verbal, where that you speak to yourself, but please be on your own, otherwise people will think you are crazy. The second one is thinking. You've all got the ability to think. Yeah, I can think of a light, I can think of a tree, I can think of a juice. Do you see what I'm saying? I've got the ability to think. Yeah, so that's mine. That's in my control. And the third one is to write. Yeah, if you take a pen and you get a pad and you start to write, but you write to your mind, dear mind, I really appreciate, and always show gratitude. I really appreciate everything that you've done for me up until now, but there's a few things I'd like to talk to you about. And then you can go on and explain what you want to say to the mind. Because to be able to write, you have to think, and then you physically write. But then at the end of the letter, then you actually speak it with a voice. And then you use 3 very powerful techniques which then start to change your neural pathways and the way that you think. Remember, your mind is designed for you. Yeah, I can't change the way you think, but you can change the way you think because that's how your mind is programmed. So self-talk will change your neural pathways. It will change the outcome. All your mind's really listening when it has anxiety and stress. It's basically saying to you, I wonder what he was doing. It basically. It's all right. It basically just is saying to you that you need to fix something. Remember, anxiety and stress is the guide, yeah? It's the guide saying to you that there's something wrong. A good technique, if you don't know why you've got anxiety and stress and you're sitting there with the bad feeling, then you've got the ability to ask your mind a question, yeah? If I say to myself, or someone asks me, what's your name? Well, I go, well, it's Chris, because that's what I learned, I learned that my name was Chris. But where do I go for the information? I go to my mind. My mind holds the information. Consciously, or the conscious self, I don't hold that information. If someone asks me the question, what's 2 times 2? I'm going to say to you it's 4, yeah? But where do I go for the information? I go to the mind. See, consciously, I don't hold the information. See, consciously, I'm just here to experience. I'm here to make decisions and experience what those decisions bring. It's like life, isn't it? Like a big fairground ride, and I'm just, choosing to go on this ride or that ride, and then I'm experiencing what that ride feels like, and then I get off and I make another decision. See, a lot of our life is lived subconsciously, isn't it? Yeah, because, when you wake up in the morning and say, right, I'm going to work, you make that conscious decision. But then subconsciously, you're eating, you're washing, you're driving, all of these things we're not thinking about anymore because we already know how to do them. It's a learned behaviour. So when you're sitting there and you've got bad anxiety or bad stress, yeah, and you don't know why, then just ask yourself the question, why am I sitting with these feelings now? And when you ask yourself a question, guess what? Your mind has to give you an answer. What's my name? Well, it's Chris. My mind's going, ooh, it's Chris. Really quickly, because they can come in nanoseconds. But if you ask yourself a more complex question, you may have to sit for a little bit, but your mind is going to tell you. And to be honest, the mind is ready to tell you. So I always suggest that when you ask your mind a question, have a pad and a paper, because it's probably going to give you 5 or 6 different things. So you quickly write them all down and go, right, thank you for that. But then you go back to the top of the list and you go, right, what do we want to do with this? Yeah? Because most of the time your mind's worrying about stuff that hasn't even happened yet. Remember, the mind isn't a positive mind. The mind has to be a negative mind because it's your guide. You're out there doing whatever you want to do, but the mind's going, oh, don't do this, don't do that, don't touch that, be careful. Because that's its job, isn't it? If your mind was carefree, then you'd probably have an accident, yeah? You probably wouldn't look left or right and walk out and maybe get knocked down. See, the mind has to be a negative mind. Every single one of us has got a negative mind, but it's the way that you work with that mind to give you the best outcomes. And the good thing is that once you start a direct communication with the mind, then you can start to use the power of the mind to get the things that you really want. But all the time you're in conflict with the mind, you're not getting anything you want. If you're not doing the thing that your mind wants you to do, then it uses its tools in its tool bag, which are bad feelings, bad emotions, bad, thoughts to tell you you're not doing the right thing. But the more you work with the mind, the stronger you'll become as a human being. And that's something that I've learned. 11 years free of drink and drugs. Cocaine, crack. You look at me, do I look like a crack addict? Well, maybe I do. Have a smoke a bit later. I don't know. But what does a crack addict look like? I don't know, But all I know is for the last 11 years, I've freed my mind. I've freed my mind and my body from having to tell me what to do. See, I wouldn't have someone else telling you, go and do this, go and do that. I'd go, piss off, I don't want to do that. But we allow our mind to do it, yeah? We allow our mind to control us. But we've got to stop, yeah? Okay, be my survival mechanism, sort out everything that's going on internally, but externally I want my choice back. I want to choose what food I eat. I want to choose the friends that I go to. I want to choose my, experience of life. I don't want to be told that I'm going in the wrong direction. When I was in the middle of drink and drugs, I used to get my, pay packet, money in my pocket on the Friday night. This way is to go home, for my dinner and my missus, or this way is to go down the pubs, with my mates and get on it. Emotionally, if I go, I'm going to do the right thing, I'm going to go this way. Emotionally, I'm going to feel bad. The closer I get home, I'm going to feel really... But if I turn around and go, all right, no, I'm going to go to the pub, my emotions are going to go, yeah. All of a sudden I'm getting dopamine release and I'm not even taking any drugs because the mind's saying, you're going in the right direction. But this direction was causing me the pain. Because it didn't matter how much fun I got from taking the substances, it always came with the bad. And I never ever stopped a drug because I thought, oh yeah, it's really bad to take drugs. I only ever stopped a drug when it became bad for me. And that's the choice that we have, isn't it? You just have to decide, am I still getting good or am I getting bad? If I'm getting good and bad, do I want that as a package or do I want something different? And, for the last 11 years, I've lived drink and drug free, a sober life. And I can tell you now, it's the best life. I get dopamine release from just coming here, from knowing that I'm going to... I don't sit there with nerves going, oh no, I've got to get up in a minute, I embrace it, I love it, I know I'm going to be teaching people. From someone smiling at me or waving or opening a door, I feel good. When I go and help someone, I feel good. Man, if I could have known this, I would have just gone and helped everyone all my life. But I didn't. I went down another route and it was a quick fix, but it cost a lot of money and a lot of pain. And eventually the death of my brother. So this is all I teach now. So any other questions? I know I talk a lot.
Where do you do your retreats, Chris?
So we were doing them in Hertford. We just moved to Harlow, so we're doing them in Harlow in Essex. So the retreats are where we just, someone comes to me, I've got anxiety and stress or a substance. It's not like we're sweeping people up from the streets and that. These are just, we're normal people with normal jobs and normal mortgages. So what we do is we take them away for 3 days and I teach them this model. I teach them the separation model. We watch them films and I go through the language. There's a certain language that you need to use with the mind, okay? There's a certain way that if you want the best outcomes, then we have to learn building a relationship and stuff like that. So there's all exercises that we go through. It is actually in here. Everything is contained in this. It's just that some people want to get away. So we take them in Harlow.
Last question, please.
That's all right.
Do you train people to do this?
So,
I work with this client in this field.
Yeah.
It would be good to...
So we are going to write a program where we're going to train people and teach people to do this because I can't do all this on my own. But it all comes down to funding and money and stuff. But we're starting to build that. Last 2 years, all I've done is given my time, and I run free workshops and free talk. That's all I've done for the last 2 years. But now I realise that we have to sort of turn it into a business. We're starting up a charity, so we're going to get funding, and then we're going to start to do trainer. So yes, we are going to. So if you just take some information, you can email me and stuff, and I can take it from there. So I think that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you to Jess, wherever she is, for inviting me here. Come and see us over there, yeah?